What's up, guys? It's Agent What If, and I'm back again with another video. This is What If Deku Was a True Summoner Part 2. So, yeah, I mean, we reached over the halfway point of 900, so we're at 969, I think. And, yeah, let's hope we can push and push and push and get there. So, keep up the good work. But without any further ado, let's get straight into the video. We start off with Izuku going to his house and coming back from school. Izuku's recently started school again since he decided that the endeavor was useful. Gray was sitting there nonchalantly, not really doing much. At this point, Izuku's powers had gone through an extreme evolution to the point where Izuku was able to call Gray out and keep him there for days on end without tiring. And since he had no limit to how many times he could bring him back, Gray could pretty much live in the human world for a very long time. Whenever Gray would go back, he'd necessarily say that he had something to do. Izuku didn't really mind this, considering that Gray was often around a lot, and he knew that if he needed him, he'd be there, so he had no problem doing that. Gray continued on just doing whatever he was doing, and Izuku did the same. That's when Izuku ran into one Bakugo. Bakugo was quite annoying and often bothered Izuku, but Izuku had confidence in this universe. Izuku had a quirk, and also Izuku knew good and well that if he wanted to, he could get Gray to come down and absolutely demolish him. But that thought kind of didn't resonate with Izuku very well. The thought of having someone else fight for you, you being weak by yourself. He put those thoughts to the back of his head, but continued on telling Bakugo to leave him alone. He's not interested. Bakugo goes to attack him, and Izuku turns around quickly and punches Bakugo in the face. And you might be asking, how does Izuku know any type of fighting? And that's because Gray taught him a little bit. You have to remember, Gray comes from the summoning world, and the summoning world is all about power. And there's most definitely physical fighters in the summoning world, so he knows how to fight. Izuku then finishes, realizing he punched Bakugo, and he walks away slowly with his hands back in his pockets, looking at Bakugo, daring or asking if he wanted to go do it again without actually saying anything. Bakugo stepped back a bit and, just walked away. Izuku was walking down the street when he was going out for groceries with the money that Gray brought in, and he was wondering what he should eat. You might be asking, why is Gray doing this? Well, Gray pretty much just left. He had said he had something to do. Izuku was walking around with his hands in his pockets, not really knowing what to do, when he stumbled upon what looked like a kind of store. He walked over to it, and he stepped in, and he asked the lady where certain things was, and he went and got them. He went down the aisle and he saw this huge man, this ginormous man with blonde hair who looked like he was about to rip out of that shirt. He was extraordinarily buff and really tall, looked like a mountain to Izuku. Izuku looked up in wonder, and the man noticed Izuku staring and said, "Oh, hello, young lad. Are you okay? Are you lost? Where's your mother?" Izuku then looked down for a second and said, "Oh, she's dead." And All Might, who this is, got immediately shocked and said, "Oh, apologies. What is your name, boy?" And Izuku says, "Oh, it's Izuku." All Might thinks to himself, I would ask where his father is, but since he hasn't mentioned his dad, he's probably dead. So I'll just let that conversation go. Izuku continued talking to All Might as they made their way out of the store, and All Might bought his food, and he bought Deku's food too. Even though Izuku said that he had the money for it, he said, no, don't worry about it. All Might even carried the food and asked Izuku where he lived, and All Might took Izuku back to his house. And All Might asked if he was interested in having a friend. And Izuku wondered, what did he mean by this? And All Might said, well, I have a job to do most of the time, but I can come visit you if you want. Izuku said, do what you want. I'm not in any position to stop you. All Might then says, okay, I'll take that as a yes. But what is your name? And then Izuku says, didn't I already tell you? And he says, oh, right. All Might then walks away with his head down saying, why did I just forget his name? Definitely not leaving a good impression. And he walked off after dropping off his groceries to Izuku and jumped off. And yes, that's where like the normal thing comes from. He would do that in the future soon, but not like, now. Izuku continued on having All Might as a visitor, and All Might pretty much became his dad. All Might, after a while, began to ask him if he had a quirk. And Izuku answered very cagily, saying, yes, but it's not here right now. All Might asked him what did he mean by that, and Izuku just said, it's just not here right now. And All Might then figured it was something personal and didn't want to pry too much to get him to push him away. So he just kept quiet. They ended up bonding and becoming pretty much friends, as All Might almost became Izuku's father figure. And he called on Gray less and less. Izuku then found out one day that All Might, was All Might, but he didn't know it. And he began to call him Toshinori as his name actually was. Izuku continued on just hanging out with All Might, and the years went by. Izuku was around 7 at this point. He hadn't called on Gray in 2 years, and he was starting to get a little worried because he wasn't paying attention while All Might was over, but Gray was not responding when he mentally made a link to see if he was there. Izuku continued on, just thinking it was Gray doing whatever he had to do. Then that's when we switched to Gray. Gray was on his knees bowing, asking, Mother, please. We then look up to see Gray's mother, who is actually a 9-tailed white kitsune fox. And she began to get angry at Gray, saying, no. Why would you do this? Why didn't you tell me? And he said, I didn't know how to tell you. It didn't seem like it was my business. My master didn't ask me to tell you about that. He didn't know you existed, okay? She then says, so that means that you don't have the right to introduce him to us? You know the ways. And Gray responds by saying, yes, I know the ways, but I want him to come. And she sighs, saying, you know this can't happen without rules. And Gray says, whatever rules I need to follow, I will. Then Gray is then told by his mother, fine, bring the boy here. I'll praise him and see if he's worthy of being here. Gray thanks his mother and then disappears in a puff of smoke. He appears right next to Izuku in the process of All Might and him eating, and Gray looks down saying, Izuku, you've grown a lot. All Might gets up in arms and throws a quick punch, but Izuku is then trying to stop him, but before he can even do anything, Gray uses his telekinesis to stop All Might's hand, but All Might starts breaking the telekinesis as Gray gets surprised at how strong he is. Izuku then tells them both to stop, that they're both friendly and not a danger. Gray then bows, saying, oh, I'm Gray, my master Izuku's servant and most loyal friend, glaring up at All Might. All Might says, I'm Toshinori, or All Might, the symbol of peace. Gray and Izuku don't know what that is, so they're like, okay. And they just continue on talking. Gray then gets around to saying, okay, the reason I've come back after so long is they will accept you. And Gray then says that to Izuku. Izuku then wonders, accept me? What do you mean? And he says, the summoning world. They'll let you go there. You be surrounded by people who treat you just as family and who look no different from you when they want to. You'll be surrounded by people who could fill all the roles that you don't have filled currently. You could have a father there, a mother. You could train. You could become strong. This caught Izuku's eyes particularly. All Might then questioned, saying, wait, you can't just take him off to some different country. All Might being kind of oblivious of what this means. He hasn't been told, like, all of the details. And Izuku then just thinks about it for a second, saying, but he looks back at All Might, and All Might then just looks at him and smiles, saying, do what you want, young Midoriya. It is not my place to tell you what to do with your life. Although just keep in mind that if you ever wish to come back, you'll be welcomed with open arms. Izuku then says okay, and he walks over to Gray saying, alright Gray, but before he could finish, All Might says, wait, you're leaving right this second? I thought you were gonna at least give me a couple days notice. As All Might starts rambling on and on and on and on. And he says, don't worry, I can come back at any point in time. And then All Might says, oh, okay. Well, I'll be here at the normal time I usually am, so make sure to come back. Izuku says okay, and he teleports to the summoning world. He teleports there, and the first thing he sees is three ginormous animals. There's one monkey that has a crown and a staff that has 3 tails. There's a 9-tailed kitsune fox. And then there's the giant dragon-looking thing. And it's just really, really old looking and looks at him aggressively. Izuku steps back in fear, saying, Gray, where are you taking me? And Gray responds, the summoning realm. What? I thought you said they look like me. And then Gray says, but you didn't pay attention. I said when they wanted to. Izuku frowns, saying that would have been valuable information. And Gray says, but I did give you that information. And his mother says, enough. Hi, I am one of the rulers of the summoning world. I see my son has brought you here. Izuku then says, wait, you exist for real, Gray? And Gray looks at him as, what? What do you mean, do I exist for real? Oh, nothing. I just kind of thought you just appeared out of the infinite nothingness when I called for you. So you thought I didn't even exist before you called me? No, I thought I created you with my quirk. Oh, no. You pull from a different dimension, alright? And Izuku then says, okay. Not really understanding what he just said. She then says, clearing her throat, she says, I apologize for my rugged tone. I haven't spoken your tongue in a very long time. And she then transforms into a much smaller, fair-skinned lady with silver hair and yellow eyes in a kimono. She walks up to Izuku and pats him on the head, saying, you're just so adorable. I didn't know my son could have a master that's so adorable. Are you sure he's here to train? He's just so cute. Maybe I should keep him for myself. And Gray then says, mother, clearing his throat. And then his mother sighs, saying, fine, fine. So Gray tells me you want to train here. Izuku says, well, I didn't really say anything about training. And Gray says he does want to train. His mother then says, okay, well, you can train. But it is going to be brutal, terrible, unbearably hard. And if you flinch or don't keep up for even a second, you'll probably die. But the rewards will be amazing. So are you up for the challenge? He then says yes reluctantly. And she says, okay. And she begins to walk over to the monkey and asks him to transform into his normal form. His name is Son Goku, and the dragon is Shenlong. And that's when he walks over to Izuku saying, hi there. You'll probably be staying with me for the first little bit, considering that, well, we all represent an aspect of something different. I represent the martial arts, discipline, training, that type of stuff. Weapon mastery. The very, very sly gray old fox over there, as he gets hit on the head, ignoring it, saying, she's going to teach you magic. And the dragon, well, he's going to teach you anything else she can't teach you. Sorry, I almost sneezed for a second. He's going to teach you everything that I don't teach you and she doesn't teach you. He's going to teach you how to fuse magic and physicality. And also he's going to teach you how to handle weapons specifically crafted by his kind. So yeah, you start with me. He begins walking with Izuku, explaining what his name is and how he operates. Gray walks away saying, "Mother, before you go, I would like to grow stronger as well." And she says, "But you're plenty strong." And he says, "But my master will become extraordinarily powerful when he leaves here. And I fear that if I am not on the par, he may not want me anymore." She then says, "I don't think that he's the type to do that." And he says, "Please, mother." She says, "Fine, you don't have to beg. I'll train you." And he smiles, saying, "Thank you." We then skip to 30 days later. Izuku is currently running around the monkey territory, dodging all types of attacks from pretty much the trees. Izuku at this point has been advanced to superhuman levels. Izuku's body has been so thoroughly broken and then put back together that his body has become so much stronger. And also the food they eat there. It's an aura that everyone can manipulate, kind of like your life force. And this place emanates it. So even someone who can't use life force will become aware of it instantly. Izuku's dodging all of this as suddenly someone jumps out of the trees attacking him. Izuku immediately turns, getting serious, jumps forward, punches him in the stomach, and then throws him over, knocking him out. He keeps on running as more and more projectiles come out of the trees coming at him. Izuku starts dodging them easily as he summons a sword and then slices, sending a wave of a slicing motion down the entire path, cutting up everything there. Everyone jumps out of the trees, dispersing as Izuku desummons his sword and begins to fight them hand to hand. Izuku beats all of them with a lot of difficulty, but does it. He's so bruised and badly beaten up now that he has no more energy. That's when Son Goku comes out clapping, saying, "Wow, Izuku, you really improved over the last month." But those were just the easy ones. And Izuku then frowns, saying, "Those were easy?" And he says, "Yes. And even my son could probably beat, 13,000 of those all around my level." That's just the disparity between the top of the leaderboard and the bottom. Izuku frowns, saying, "This is not going to be good." And he says, "No, it's not. But your training's over for today. Now, go to the healing springs and meet us for dinner." Izuku then says, "Okay," and begins to walk away. He hasn't seen Gray in a month. Gray is currently on a mountain training with his mother about magical focus and increasing his mana. So he's been sitting there for the last month, not moving a single inch, focusing so intensely on how to gather his aura together. She's been training him pretty hard as well. We then time skip to when Izuku was done with his training with the monkeys. He had finished all of his physical training, and at this point, Izuku's around 10 years old. It took him 3 years to finish. Izuku then, after being finished, he's 10 years old, so it's been 3 years. Gray's improved vastly to the point where he's able to keep up with his mother to a certain degree until she gets serious, and that's an impressive feat on its own. Izuku goes over to training with Gray's mother as well, who we found out to be named Silver, and Izuku found it quite funny how he called her son Gray, even though her name was Silver. He found it funny how that was a coincidence, but she didn't take kindly to this joke and immediately gave him more magical practices to do. Izuku was probably trained the hardest by Silver, considering she is not tolerant of any slackers of any kind. She's a harsh trainer. Otherwise, she's a nice person, but when it comes to training, she's extraordinarily strict. Izuku would have to meditate for hours on end, focusing his power and keeping it in a central position for long periods of time. Then he'd have to unload all of his power at the exact same time in order to destroy something entirely. If he failed by even a little bit, he would instantly have to do much more meditation. The key of this exercise was to get their focus and meditation to such a nice degree that they could instantly perform these types of attacks. because they know how to put their aura together correctly. Izuku and Gray were training as Gray was a vast majority better than Izuku was at this as they kept on training. Next was about healing themselves. She didn't push too hard about this because she knew that just having access to the inner aura that fueled the body would allow them to regenerate faster than most people, and Izuku wouldn't have a problem with that. So they kept on training, and after they finished Magical Focus, she started training them in more different types of elements and how to manipulate them. Izuku was only born with one element, and it was actually air, so that's the only thing he used. She told him that it wasn't a problem if he only had one element, considering most people only have one, so it's perfectly fine. Gray, however, had three. He had lightning, fire, and wind, so yes, he was exceptionally powerful considering everything. Izuku began to train his wind, being able to create large gusts and tornadoes from nothing, and even to the point where he could send wind at a person so fast that it would scorch the ground beneath it without even touching it. Izuku could effortlessly travel large distances by just using his wind to propel himself extraordinarily far in a very short amount of time. He could also increase the speed of any of his attacks by cutting the wind resistance they faced, therefore making his attacks extraordinarily fast. He was quite the fan of attacking people with large gusts of wind, sending them flying or into the air. His wind also made an impressive defense, being able to reject most attacks if they weren't of the opposite element, right, of the counter element, including physical attacks as well. Izuku's wind training was going pretty well when they were 3 years in. Izuku mastered his element pretty quickly as he was advancing extraordinarily fast, but Izuku was on a timetable. He didn't want to stay there for too much longer because of the fact that he knew good and well that, well, if he stayed much longer, he'd miss out on being a hero. So he decided that that's what he'd do. And you might be wondering, well, how do you figure that they're going to let Izuku in if he has no normal training and no normal intelligence? Well, Izuku hasn't just been training normally. Along with his magical training and physical training, he had been getting educated on all of the things of the human world and summoning world. So he is very smart, extraordinarily smart. And also, he can amplify his knowledge vastly by just using telepathy to read the minds of others and process their information, or just being able to understand something, understand the way things work, which is kind of the wisdom he gained from Silver. And another trait he gained is the focus of Son Goku. He could essentially focus under any situation. His mind and body never stressed, making him always in peak condition no matter what, and always ready to do what's needed to be done. It just allowed him to keep calm in any situation and never feel fear in the face of danger, so that he could always think clearly and rationally and make the best choice, which is more useful than you think. Izuku went to go train with Shenlong. When Shenlong came down, it turned out that she was also a she. Shenlong walked up to Izuku and asked him what is the one thing that he wants. And she asked this question, but Izuku was quite puzzled, saying, "What do you mean? I thought I was supposed to get training." And she then says, "Look, my training really isn't training. What we're going to be doing here is forging you a weapon. And that weapon is going to be the center of your fighting. This weapon will be bound to you, so you have to make sure that you use and put your entire being into making it so that it perfectly represents you. Or you'll be stuck with something that doesn't quite feel right for the rest of your life." And Izuku says, "Wow, that's serious." And she says, yes it is. The green-haired woman with yellow eyes walks over to a forge as she tells her children to move out of the way so that Izuku could see. The forge had 3 different elements on it. It had a yellow stone that was more triangular in nature. It had a green stone that was more just oval shaped, really. And a blue stone that was a cube. And she asked, "Now I want you to focus. Which one of these do you..." And he says, "The green one." And she says, "Now I'm going to reiterate this. take your time and think about the green one. She sighs, saying, fine, it's your life. And they pick up the green one and walk over to the forge. Again, it's 3 blades. He picks the one that's in the middle. Not too big, not too small, but definitely more sharp and unedged. They go to the guards now. The guard is the most important piece. Everything depends on the guard. Izuku takes this one a bit more seriously, realizing that she was no longer joking. She then looks at the guards. There's one guard that's pretty simple with a normal semicircle kind of guard and with a nice blue and gold trim at the bottom. Or there was another one that looked more Japanese in nature, kind of like a katana, but Izuku wasn't particularly fond of that one. The last one was one that kind of looked like it had dragon claws or talons sticking out of the side as a guard, and the blade would look so cool coming out of there. It was purple and gold. Izuku wondered which one he particularly wanted. He knew that he didn't want the katana since it was too small for the sword anyway, and it would kind of look stupid if a medium-sized sword was on a small blade handle. So yeah, he didn't particularly think of that one. He decided that he wanted the blue and gold one, so he picked that one and put the sword together, ended up forging it. She said, how does it feel? And Izuku says, like nothing. And then she says, oh, okay. And Izuku says, what do you mean, oh, okay? Did I mess up? And she says, no, you didn't. You did it right. It shouldn't feel like anything because the sword is a part of you. So it shouldn't feel any different. It should feel exactly the same as you are. It's supposed to be like that. If it felt different, we'd have an issue. But since it doesn't, we're good. Now, all you need to do is pretty much just hold on to the sword and it'll train you. The sword knows how it best is to be used by its wielder, so you don't really need me to tell you anything. Izuku says, so I can go back to the world of humans? And she says, yes, you can. And when did you start calling it the world of humans? And Izuku wonders, saying, I don't know. And they walk off as she smiles at him, waving, and Izuku goes back to the meeting area where all of the great beasts converge and have a talk on telling them how Izuku's training's been. They all say that he's been doing extraordinarily well and has surpassed all of their expectations. Gray is there too, but he looks a bit older, a lot older. His hair has grown out and gotten longer. He seems more emotionally there, and his bangs have reached to the side of his face, and his hair is all the way down back in a ponytail. And he looks more reserved, but not at all dissuaded from emotion. He has a sword on his back with a very cool outfit. Izuku wonders how much change he has gone through as well. And Gray looks at Izuku smiling, saying, hello, master. It's been a while. And Izuku just doesn't respond, not being dumbstruck by his change in appearance. Silver then says, okay. You've been here for an extraordinarily long time. You've trained with us. You've practiced with us. I think it's time to go back. And Izuku says, okay, thank you, Lady Silver. And she says, you're just so cute, as she disappears from Izuku's sight and immediately grips him in a hug that could kill a normal person. And he immediately just starts asking, Bones, I need those. And then she says, oh, right, letting him go. Izuku then says it was fun, as he heals his broken body from the bear hug. And he begins to leave, as Son Goku tells him to keep up his training. Shenlong tells him to make sure that he doesn't break the sword because he's not getting another one. And as Silver tells him to be safe on his trip. They all wave as Izuku goes through the portal along with Gray as they appear back in the house to see All Might. But All Might looks incredibly sad, and he wonders what's going on. He goes over to All Might, but All Might doesn't notice it's him, and he just feels this despair. All Might looks up and says, Izuku? But with that, I think I'm going to end this episode. If you guys enjoyed it, make sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe, and all of that other stuff, because yes, we are this close to getting to 1,000 subscribers. So without any further ado, peace.